The storm of voices in the marble-floored lobby rose the same moment the elevator doors slid open, and every employee froze as two identical little girls sprinted out like twin hurricanes. One knocked over a vase worth more than an average month's salary. The other grabbed a stack of contracts from a lawyer's briefcase and ripped them in half as if testing the world's patience was her birthright. Workers whispered, guards hesitated, nannies backed away in surrender, and at the center of the chaos stood the billionaire CEO, Adrian Voss, tall, immaculate, powerful, and absolutely terrified of his own daughters. But just when the girls began tugging on an expensive sculpture as if they planned to uproot it entirely, someone else stepped forward. A man no one ever noticed, wearing a faded Navy janitor uniform and balancing a mop bucket with one hand while his other held a half-eaten sandwich. His name was Rowan Hale, a single father who had learned that life didn't wait for perfect chances, it only responded to courage. And in that split second, the impossible began. If you believe in kindness, compassion, and second chances, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Echoes of Kindness to help stories like this reach more hearts. The chaos of that morning was only the surface of what had been happening for weeks. Adrian Voss's twin daughters, Mira and Soline, 6 years old and heartbreakingly stubborn, had chased away every nanny hired for them. Some quit within hours, others left in tears, and one even jumped into a taxi without collecting her final pay. They weren't bad children, they were simply hurting, grieving, and lost. Their mother had passed away 8 months earlier, and Adrian buried himself in work, building skyscrapers and empires, while the girls built walls of their own. They lashed out at everyone, yet no one understood the reasons beneath their wildness. No one except Rowan, who saw things no one else looked closely enough to notice. Rowan was invisible in the building, just another worker pushing a cart of cleaning supplies down a hallway no executive cared about. But he had once been more than this. Before tragedy hit his life like a tidal wave, he had been a preschool teacher with a gift for calming restless hearts. His wife's sudden passing forced him into survival mode, and desperate to provide for his 8-year-old son, Orion, he took the janitor job he could get fast. People treated him kindly enough, but no one knew anything about him beyond the name sewn on his uniform pocket. No one guessed at the strength of patience or ocean-deep empathy the quiet man carried. The morning he first stepped toward the twins, he didn't raise his voice or snap orders. He simply crouched to their height, calm in the eye of chaos, and placed his bucket down beside him. The twins stared with the defiant gaze of children used to scaring adults into silence. But Rowan's eyes were soft, steady, and surprisingly warm. He picked up the shattered vase pieces and looked at them gently, almost thoughtfully. Mira, her tangled hair falling over her face, fidgeted uncomfortably. Soline watched him with cautious curiosity. People expected him to scold them. Instead, Rowan gave a small nod toward the broken shards and said nothing, as if acknowledging that accidents and emotions could spill without shame. Something subtle shifted. Soline lowered the contract papers she had torn. Myra's shoulders loosened. Even Adrian, standing a few feet away with his perfect tie and clenched jaw, felt the tension ease. When Rowan finally spoke, he used a low, steady tone that seemed to settle the air itself. He asked the girls, without command, without pressure, if they wanted to help him gather the fallen pieces. Slowly, uncertainly, they joined him. Their tiny hands placed each fragment into his palm as if the pieces were more than broken porcelain, they were pieces of their own hearts, and someone was finally willing to help them carry the weight. That was the beginning. Word spread quickly through Voss Enterprises that the janitor had done what no professional caretaker could, get the twins to listen, even briefly. Adrian observed from a distance, confusion etched into the lines of his usually controlled expression. He didn't understand how a simple janitor solved in seconds what elite experts failed at for months. But Rowan didn't care for admiration or attention. When his shift ended, he hurried home to his son, Orion, a quiet boy with thoughtful eyes and a sketchbook always under his arm. Rowan cooked dinner, helped with homework, and told stories until Orion fell asleep. It was only then that Rowan allowed himself to collapse into bed with exhaustion thicker than the city fog outside his window. Meanwhile, at the company, the twins' behavior worsened whenever Rowan wasn't around. They threw tantrums during meetings, hid inside storage rooms, chased interns, and even locked a board member in the supply closet. Adrian's patience ran thin, yet his heart broke every time he heard their cries. He had no idea how to connect with them, his world was built on numbers, strategies, and control.
But fatherhood had no manual, and grief didn't negotiate. So, with desperation outweighing pride, Adrian called Rowan into his office.
The room was enormous, lined with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, but Rowan stood humble and steady in the center.
Adrian, for the first time in his life, admitted defeat.
He asked if Rowan would consider working with the girls privately, not as a janitor, but as their caretaker. Adrian offered more money than Rowan had seen in years, enough to secure a better life for Orion.
But Rowan wasn't driven by wealth, he was driven by purpose.
After thinking carefully, he agreed on one condition: he would not give up his janitor shifts entirely. He refused to teach his son that success meant forgetting where you came from.
Adrian didn't understand it, but he respected it. With Rowan in their lives, the twins began to transform, but not magically, and not instantly.
Their grief showed itself in small, sharp ways. Mira had nightmares and refused to sleep unless the lights were bright.
Soline hid drawings of her mother behind bookshelves, protecting them like fragile secrets.
Rowan didn't try to fix them, he simply sat with them in their darkness, patient as sunrise. He taught them how to breathe slowly when they felt overwhelmed.